Okay, I think we're live, Mark.
Well, that's great. That's great. Well, nice
Yeah,
to see you, Ian. Thanks for having me on, and hello to everybody there in the UK.
it's great that you can join us, Mark. It really is great. And everybody on the live stream, hello to the live stream. Mark is going to answer all questions later. But let me just introduce Mark properly. You all probably know Mark, but Mark is a renowned international ventriloquist. A few things about Mark. He has been International Ventriloquist of the Year, a great accolade. He's the author of 2 books and is also the renowned American top children's entertainer. Is that correct, Mark?
Yeah, absolutely. I love working with the kids.
Yeah, and you've done you've books, DVDs, videos, quite a lot of material, all on working with children.
Right.
And kids shows, adults as well. Well, obviously, also on lecturing worldwide. Have you got stories or anything you'd like to share on those? Or
Oh my, well, I've been to Japan 4 times. Going to be 4 times.
Wow.
I've been to Japan lecturing and performing. It's just a long flight from America. It's like 17 hours one way. So it's a long flight. You go to sleep in a plane, you think you're just about there. You wake up and like 10 minutes have passed. So it's just a long process, but it's well worth it. The Japanese are very much into ventriloquists. They have clubs over there, maybe 1,000 members in the club, or of course some of the clubs are smaller, but they all have ventriloquist clubs over there where they study under a master teacher. So
would you say it's as popular as it is in America?
I would say so. Now it is, anyway. It was a few years ago very popular, and it's even grown since then. So yes.
Right, it's building up. And there's your phone. There's an important message. Is that to say that your dinner's done?
Yeah, I was hoping, but no. It's my friend Tom Crowell. He called me back.
Oh, right. Okay.
I'll talk to Tom later.
Yeah. We should have got him on with it. He's going to be on a future one. We should have got him in on there.
Yeah, that's okay. Well, Tom can. He's cool as heels for a couple minutes. I'll talk to him in a little bit.
Yeah, he'll be fine. You've also been over here to the UK and done a couple of lectures over here in the UK and talks.
Canada, across Canada, doing lectures and shows. So I've been around. It's worked out really well. I've enjoyed doing it. I like presenting the children's routines to the people there in England and different places. So yeah, I think it's really good that we can do that. One thing I wanted to say about the English, I'm very, very impressed with the UK, how they treat children's performers. They give them their due respect. I've always thought that was great. In America, that's kind of iffy sometimes. It's kind of like you do kid shows if you can't do anything else sometimes. So I'm really want to give the UK their due, because they were the shining example for me for a lot of years.
I think I think we get badged similar sometimes. Of some magicians think that we're not magicians as children's entertainers. Not all, but it does happen occasionally.
Right. Well, I've been impressed when I went over for Kidology a couple of times and some of the magic conventions and whatnot. And I was very impressed with the caliber of the performers and the caliber of the shows that they're doing, and even the time that they do a lot of time for the kids. I think that's great.
Yeah, it's increasing. I think it's getting more popular.
Yes.
With the ventriloquist. But maybe the lockdown had something to do with it, where people have, because we can't get anybody up to help us, and some people do it online, having an instant stooge like a puppet that you can control and script in is pretty good. Not necessarily easy, but that's good to have on in your armory.
Right, exactly. I agree with you 100%.
Do you find that the venues and the performers are very similar wherever you lecture throughout the world? And that, do you find that or do you find environments very different? And
well, there's a few differences here in America. We have a lot of what is called elementary school shows, school assembly programs, and you go in and you could actually do a 45 or 50-minute show, and you can teach them something while you're at it. You can teach things like self-esteem, bicycle safety, a lot of different topics you can get into when you're doing those shows. So the school shows are very popular. Library shows are very popular in the summertime. Unfortunately, they all got wiped out this summer, but
Same here.
yeah. So, but the library shows are very popular. So you have two built-in kind of things that you can go to as a children's performer here, and of course, then you have the birthday parties and all that too. I guess I've never been a big birthday party person. I've always done the other.
Yeah, we don't have any library shows really here in the UK that I'm aware of. Schools used to give fair bit of work, but obviously with the situation at the moment, that's through the window as well. But birthday parties, christenings, weddings, and family shows, it's popular apart from the moment, obviously because of the situation again.
Well, one thing about the libraries that they do for us here in the United States, which is good, they have what's called a national theme. Maybe it's like hats off to reading. So you might do a show about hats or have something to do with hats and or whatnot. And then everybody can do it. So you can go from one state to another state and use the same show. So you don't have to build a separate show for each area that you're going to. One show kind of does it all, which is good. I've done shows in New York, and I've done them out in Ohio, and I've done them out west here, using the same theme, which is great. I think it's a wonderful idea that they've come up with.
Yeah, it sounds good, especially as you get the format beforehand. So you're not pitching them with something that they might not like. They're actually
Right.
telling you what the subject is. So that must be could have an advantage and also a disadvantage with other competition, I suppose.
Well, yes, and no, it's sort of great to see how creative you can come up with what your spin on the national title of the national object they're talking about. So your show could be a hats off reading. Maybe it's all about talking hats. I don't know. Maybe there's somebody else who's going to do a different show about that.
Right. There's an entertainer here on the UK. If I'd known he was mentioned now, I would have pulled him on. His name's Sammy Brooks, and he does a fantastic routine with a hat.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope he doesn't mind me mentioning it, with a hat, and there's actually a make-believe rabbit in and events with this as well. I'm not doing it justice. If you see the routine, it's a fantastic routine and really funny. Very well scripted and very imaginative.
Right. That's kind of thing the librarians are looking for. They'll have a ventriloquist doing a hats off to reading show. They'll have a magician. They can have singers. Everybody has their own different spin on it depending upon what your specialty is. So that's why they'll have maybe 5 or 6 library performers in a summer here
Yeah.
at one library.
Your books cover a lot of detail on library shows and getting business and promoting yourself, which is for somebody who really you're teaching them how to come into competition with yourself, but they go into quite depth, don't they?
Well, I tried to make them that way. When I wrote the book Kid Show Ventriloquism, which was the original book, it was written back in 1996. Then we revised it and came back with a softback cover in 2000, I think it was 2006. Anyway, we brought those 2 books out, and they were kind of like I wanted them to be like a textbook on how to do shows for children the right way anyway. And some people that do shows for kids really shouldn't be doing shows for kids. They don't like kids, and it shows in their work. In fact, they said, "That'll hold them." You know, that's the attitude they have when they're doing those kind of shows.
Yeah, we may have a few comments agreeing with you on that one, Mark. Where do you think a lot of entertainers go wrong with children? What do you think the problem is? The material or the attitude towards it?
I think it's a little combination of everything, Ian. Number one, I've had them say to me, well, they're not kids. You have to think of them as little adults. No, they're not little adults. They're kids. And you have to think on a child's level to do that. I have a teaching degree in elementary education here. I taught elementary school before I was
going to come to that.
before
Yes.
I was a ventriloquist. I taught for 3 or 4 years. Then I went full time as a ventriloquist for about 40. So it's you kind of learn the psychology of children, and the adults sometimes miss that. And kids know instinctively, I think, if you like them. If you like them, they know it. If you don't like them, or you're just putting up with them, I think they can sense that too. I think though, if they like you, they'll give you the world. If they don't like you, they'll take the world away from you if they get a chance.
Yeah, it's definitely important, I think, with children and adults to get that initial rapport, isn't it? To get on with them straight away, get them to like you, which is quite difficult, especially stage. I think at a birthday party where you meet them before and you warm to them, it's okay. But when it's cold coming out on stage and you haven't had a very good introduction, then and there's a distance between you and the audience, I think it can be very hard and very, very difficult. How do you cope with that,
But
Mark?
all my shows, I do a warm up with the kids to get them to know me a little bit and get me to know them a little bit. We get to know each other. That's before I bring the first puppet out. I always do a warm up with them, get them laughing, clapping, getting involved, let them know it's going to be fun. And also they're going to learn a little something along the way too. We try not to stick 500 messages in about what they're trying to learn. We try to get 4 or 5 messages at the very, very most. That way they'll remember it. If they come to your show and you say, what did you learn? They can say this and this and this or this. They can mention 4 or 5 things you mentioned to them. They'll like that. That works. But if they say, well, the puppets were nice, they didn't learn very much. So that's why you can overcrowd too many things in a show.
It's too complicated.
Too many messages, as they say.
Yeah, it gets too complicated. But it's good that I think we should do more of that in England, where in the education they're using puppetry and magic to scaffold the education process, aren't they?
Yes.
To prop it up and reinforce information, because they do remember. They probably remember the puppets more than us, I think, the children, don't they?
Well, you've got to prove to the kids, first of all, it's going to be fun. Learning can be fun if you do it the right way. And if it's one gigantic history lesson all the way through, you're going to lose some along the way. They're going to be bored with it. They're going to turn off. They're not going to be on it with you. So you have to make sure you're.
Do you find that gives you more? Sorry, Spark. Do you find that gives you more control over them as well once that they're on your side, so they more with you rather than against you?
Yeah, I think with the warm up, it gives you a chance to break the ice with them, and they become on your side. It's not not an adult versus the child. It's both of us on the same team, so to speak, while we're doing the show. I think that's very, very important when you're doing shows with children.
Yeah. So on a theme, could you have different age groups for that? So do you have to tailor it slightly for the different age groups within the schools or libraries?
Yeah, I do. The school shows are more educational and fun. The library shows are just fun, as long as you mention books and reading somewhere along the way. You can get more latitude with the library shows as far as getting away from so many messages. They want the kids to come and have fun and take out books in the library. That's the big objective for library shows. For school shows, maybe the principal or the person in charge hired you to come in and talk about self-esteem, or maybe anti-bully, or different topics that they have that they want taught. And so your show has to teach that. And I try to do them pre-K through grade 5 or 6 is what I shoot for when I do it. Because sometimes I'll have young kids in the front, which are preschoolers, and big kids in the back. And if I do too much for the little kids, and the big kids say, well, that's a baby show, I don't want to watch that. And if you do everything for the big kids, the ones up front get bored with it easily. So you have to kind of mix it up between bouncing back and forth between things for the younger and things for the older kids. I think if you keep that nice balance in there, I think things work well.
Yeah, and I suppose it stops them being disruptive for you as well, doesn't it? If they feel included within the show.
Yeah, I think if you keep them active and keep them interested and keep them moving with you, they don't have time that they're going to miss something. A couple things I do, a lot of times if they're noisy, I'll talk to them and say, now listen, I want everybody to listen very carefully, because I'm going to tell you something. I lower my voice so low. They also say, what? What did he say? They stop what they were doing to hear what you said. They thought they missed something. I just lowered my voice just a little bit when I was talking to them. That way, then they listen to me again. I pick them back up, and then I can go back to my regular tone of voice. It's not saying, all right, and you don't challenge the older kids. You don't say, now if you kids don't stop talking, I'm going to stop the show, and that's the end of it. You're going back to class, and that's not just throwing down a gauntlet. That's a challenge to older kids. You get them involved. So when I have an audience volunteer, I try to get one of the older kids to come up with me first on stage in the show. That way the older kids say, oh, it must be for us too, if he's using people out of the audience that are older. So it's kind of a psychology thing with him a little bit.
I bet you've had some weird and funny experiences on that, Mark. Could you share any of those with us? I
Oh,
can see you shaking your head there.
yeah, I've had my share, I think. Um, I've had I had a little girl come. It was very cold here. I lived up north before I came to sunny Florida, which I'm glad I'm in Florida now. It's nice and warm. But this little girl I picked out of the audience. She'd been riding a school bus for about 45 minutes to an hour. She had not gone to the bathroom. So I bring her on stage to help me. And I look down at the stage, and the stage is elevated. So I'm higher than the kids in the audience. They're looking up this way toward me instead of down. And the little girl had wet herself on stage. I mean, she made
Oh,
a huge puddle. I'm going, oh my God, they're going to think it's me. So a teacher was standing up in the back, and she had a horrified look on her face. She saw that little girl's terror. And I went like this. The little girl said, "What? What's that? Will you tell me hurts?" Well, I'll tell you what, that nice teacher there's going to take you to the bathroom and make you feel better. And the teacher took her away. The kids never knew anything about it. And we cleaned the mess up after the show was over with, and nobody ever knew that she did anything on stage. So we tried to cover for her a little bit. But the funny thing about it was, in the afternoon, I brought the older kids in, and I had another girl do the same thing, but she was older. She was in the fourth grade. I said, "My gosh, what is it? They must have bladder problems here at the school or something." But I just didn't want them to think I was doing it on stage the whole time, you know.
Yeah, you also uh, experiences with the lecturing, and you also have to invite lecturers to Venthaven. Venthaven, for those that don't know, is International Ventriloquist Society. And am I correct? You're the executive director of that, Mark?
I'm the executive director of the Van Haven International Ventriloquist Convention, which we're sponsored by our museum, Van Haven Museum. And part of our deal, when you come to the convention, you get a free bus trip out to see the museum, which is about 3 miles away. And so, yeah, this year we had to cancel because naturally COVID kind of knocked everything in the head. Next year, we're going to be back on July 14 to 17 and back at the International Holiday Inn there at the Cincinnati Airport Holiday Inn, I should say.
Yeah, it always works out well for me, Mark. I know I missed last year, and unfortunately this year because of the world situation. But on the few times that I've been, the trip to the museum's been phenomenal. And have I got a name? Lisa? Is it Lisa who looks after
Lisa
it?
Squeezy is our curator of the museum, and Annie Roberts, who's on my staff as my media coordinator, is also one of the directors. So we have Tom Ladshaw as the director, and Bob Wiley is the director. We have directors are different. I'm an advisor to the museum. The advisors are one group, the directors are another. The directors actually handle the day-to-day business and the money and all that for the museum. The advisors, we advise. We tell them things that we might like to see them do with the museum, things that we'd like to see them do down the road with the museum. Right now, we're getting ready to build a new museum. So we had fundraising for the last 2 or 3 years trying to getting funds together and grants and whatnot to build a new Van Haven. So I'm very pleased about that. We want to get that up and going.
It's quite a difficult chore. The organisers and the people running there have got as well into it with keeping the humidity and the atmosphere right, because there's
All has to
very
be
old
climate control, because a lot of the puppets we got are paper mache, and paper mache, as you know, deteriorates pretty rapidly in heat and whatnot. So Florida's not Florida, but Kentucky's not exactly a real hot area. But even at that, the humidity that they do get in the summertime can affect the puppets.
Yeah, I think if you was to take the convention away, and I'm going to come back to that in a moment, the visit to the museum is worth the convention price alone. Well, to me it was, after all the history and the ladies and gentlemen that was taking you around, they all knew the history of all the puppets and all. It was very interesting and very well worth it. But also, and then at the convention, if nobody's ever been, or if you haven't been yet,
right,
definitely go, because it's full on, but in a good way, isn't it, Mark? There's no night and day really, so with the hospitality and meeting everybody.
I'd say it goes 24/7. I think there for 3 or 4 days. We usually have 4-day convention: Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and wrap up with a big show on Saturday night. But we have shows and lectures and workshops and everything, but different aspects of ventriloquism. It could be gospel ventriloquism, it could be kid show ventriloquism, it could be cruise ship ventriloquism. We try to hit all the different aspects of it and show people that one area is not better than another. It's all in the big banner of ventriloquism.
Yeah, very good. And it's always my birthday when you have it, so I've
Was
got an
that right?
excuse. I've got an excuse for the flight and the
Well, that's big.
tickets.
Treat yourself for a birthday present. That's good.
That's right. Well, my partner did a couple of years ago on my first one for the 40th anniversary, and I made so many friends there. Walked in with a friend who I was, and still is a friend who I was on the flight with, Shane West. And
Okay.
within a few hours, I'd got a few hundred more friends that are so welcoming. And we went out for a meal, great gang of us, and it was great atmosphere, great information, not just about the atmosphere and how friendly, but the information was spot on as well.
Well, we try to get the very best of the best to come to Vent Haven to do things. And we've tried to keep our standards very, very high. I mean, there's hundreds of magic conventions. There's practically one in every street corner once a month you could go to if you wanted to. Ventriloquist conventions, we're about the biggest game and only game in town right now. There's one in Japan that's very nice. But again, it's 17 hours for most people to go there, and the cost is kind of prohibitive flying over there.
Yeah, we've got one in this country, Venturama, which is run by Shane West, and yes, I know. I've seen you there. It's been great to have you there, and it's been great fun, and everybody's enjoyed it. This year, we don't know what's happening, obviously, because of the situation, but hopefully, sort of somewhere we can do. And it'd be great for you to be over again, obviously. And,
I also work Kidology over there, which is a great children's magic convention.
That's right. The two are kind of bound together, aren't they, over the 2 days?
Yeah.
You're involved in a few other very important ventriloquist societies throughout the world, really. The IVS and the Mayer Studios. Could you give us more information on that, on your roles within there?
The IVS, we had, for a long time, we did not have a ventriloquist organization. We had some in the past. In fact, I ran one for 10 years back in 1970 to 1978 to 1988. It was called the SAV, the Society of American Ventriloquists. And anyway, we had a newsletter we put out and all that. But what happened was my folks owned a newspaper, and that's why I was able to print and do all that stuff a lot cheaper than anybody else could. When my parents passed away and the newspaper was sold, I didn't have the backing of the newspaper any longer, so we had to give it up. But we've had in the past, we've had the IVS, the International Ventriloquist, IVA, International Ventriloquist Association. We've had the IBV, International Brotherhood of Ventriloquists, and now we've got the International Ventriloquist Society, IVS, which was formed by myself and Tom Crowell and Ken Groves. We put that together, and it's an online magazine that Tom puts out. In fact, he's putting it together right now.
That was, yeah, I've subscribed to the IVS because there's a lot of good articles and people can send in the stories. It's a great learning resource as well. I think your materials on there, if I'm correct, Mark?
I'm sorry, what?
Your materials on there as well?
Yes, I'm sorry, I didn't hear you for a second. Yes, in fact, I just submitted a column or two to Tom. I write a column every issue for him. And I always try to give some insights into different types of performing. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. I love working for Tom and doing the things. We work together as a partnership, as a team. It was sponsored by Mayer, and because Mayer had a magazine out called News Events years ago, and it was the North American Association of Ventriloquists. That was the Mayer school's official newsletter. And they had news and events about ventriloquists and ventriloquism all around the world in it. But when Clinton passed, that kind of passed with him. Clinton Detwater was the owner, he and his wife, Adelia.
Yeah. You're involved with that still, aren't you, in the Mayo? Are you still involved with that, Mark? Or
I'm not involved with Mayer any longer. Ken and I had to drop out. Ken was working a theater. I was working a series of shows up north for an energy company doing school shows, so I didn't have time to do both Mayer and that. So Tom, bless his heart, took over the whole process and is doing a lot of the stuff himself now with our help. Yeah. We'll kick in and help him, but we're not there like David by day things.
I think that's one of the beauties of that. It seems as if the convention, IVS, and the Mayor Studios, there's a lot of combined effort from people from the different ones. Would I be right in assuming that, Mark? It just seems that way, very much
Yeah,
so.
yes. Tom has done a real good job putting that together. Like I said, it's sometimes hard to get contributions all the time because some people are hot and cold. They'll send you something and then you don't hear from them for 6 or 8 months, and you have to go out and start knocking on doors a little bit to get some information. So we're encouraging people, if you have something you'd like to have in the IVS newsletter, it's called the IVS Spotlight. Get back with Tom and send an article or a video, and he'll put it in the magazine.
Yeah, I must admit I've been guilty of that. I used to send to Tom every month, and then I don't know why. Well, no excuses really. May as well say there's no ice cream in the fridge because one excuse is as good as another. But always manage to do too late and forget to do it. So I must remember to do that because a lot of people make a lot of effort within that spotlight.
But Tom works really hard at it, and he's doing a good job. But just like I said, we need more support to keep articles going, keep things fresh and alive. I mean, I think that's the whole key to it.
Yeah, I think I'll put a link to the IVS after the interview. Actually, I'll put a link in with the comments and everything so people can have a look because there's too much there that we can discuss or even mention within a session, isn't there? Really, you know, there's 4 different forums and everything else.
Right. Tom will take care of it. He's getting things going. So he's working on a new newsletter right now as we speak. That was him that called a minute ago. He's probably asking me something about the newsletter. But that call will wait though, Ian. That'll wait till later.
Yeah, it's chasing you up there for information. That's what it is. Yeah. Also, when I've gone into my library to find these, is a couple of DVDs that you've got, which was the Art of Kids show.
Yes, that was done live with live shows in it.
Yeah, when you look on the back, and I'll post some pictures of the back of that. There's so much on there that really, it's a great resource that you can keep going back to. It's not a one-watch DVD, is it? You know,
well, you can go back because many times you get a few things. Yeah, in fact, I even go back, look at it, and review myself. I find things I put on there I forgot that I put on, or things that are valuable that I might have forgotten even myself.
Yeah, and the other one is the Advanced Ventriloquism, which is one of my favourites. And I've got a confession, a bit of a reason why I did mention. Well, not why I mentioned them. I wanted to mention them, but on this one in particular, there's a couple of items on there, and I'm going to ask you. You don't have to say yes, but I'm going to ask you a favour. On there, it's got the baby cry, which saw you do that. It was just phenomenal. As a favour, would you run through that and maybe teach us?
Sure, I'm glad to give you the nuts and bolts, as they say, of the baby cry. The baby when I teach the baby cry, babies aren't like little dolls that go "Wah," and they stop. They don't do that. No, they build up to cry. They have little tiny lungs, so you have to think of a steam locomotive, a train chugging down the track, building up a head of steam, and it's almost like a cough sound because they're trying to get air into the lungs. And once they get enough air in there, they give a big blast, a big cry. And then they try to regain that sound, regain that energy again, do another cry. So it's like a cough sound. And I do a cough, I go, and then you keep raising your voice another octave or two higher as you go along. So it's And when you do that, when you raise it, it's almost a cartoony type sound a little bit, but you don't want it to be exactly like a baby because they gurgle and do all kinds of weird things, and that doesn't sell the baby cry to the audience very well. So it's a cough. It's a and you start low and you keep going up until you get to the highest pitch you can make. Sometimes it's if you're trying it and you go you can go higher. And then if you come back down to the most comfortable falsetto you can make, right there, that's the sound. You okay? Okay, very good. And then you do the baby cry with the baby's hungry, so give the baby your finger and put in the mouth. Pull it out of the mouth. Anything else? The baby then will burp. You just swallow air and hold the air, and you makes the burp sound. I've had thousands of kids to ask me, "Can you teach me the burp?" And I said, "Absolutely not. I don't want parents and teachers mad at me all across the world with teaching the burp." So baby cry has been one of the things that is kind of my masterpiece. One thing that I'm noted for.
What tips would you give somebody trying to learn that, like as in directing the airflow inside your mouth and nose? Where would you say it starts, and where would you say that finishes?
Well, it starts by using the diaphragm. So I'm sitting down, so I can't use the full range of the diaphragm, but I can actually do louder than that when I'm standing.
Wow.
Air comes up, and think of a cough sign. You can cough, go uh-huh, 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 and you're pushing the air out with a uh-huh, 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 uh-huh. You had to get that little cough sound in there. If you diagrammed it, it goes low to the high point, then drops off again. And then the baby has to build back up to another cry, which is that thing. So it's kind of it's a gradual build up to it.
Well, you make it look a lot easier than I know it is. I've practiced and practiced getting getting it
One
right.
thing about the baby cry, Ian, is it's not something. It's like doing the distant voice. It's not something you do for a half an hour to practice. You practice maybe 10 or 15 minutes on that at a time. A lot of water with you to keep your vocal cords moistened, and practice that way with it. You practice sparingly until you get it down. And then the whole routine I do with the baby lasts maybe 5 minutes or 6 minutes. I bring a child out of the audience, wrap a towel up, and I'm going to make him the babysitter. And every time I hand the baby to the child, the baby cries. And the kid jumps about a foot. And I've had him actually run off the stage. He got so scared. One little boy ran off the stage one time. He thought he really hurt the baby. And I said, no, it's just me. It's just me doing it. I had to show him it was me after the show. But he took off. The teacher caught him out in the hall and when ran off the stage. He thought he scared the baby or hurt the baby somehow.
That's how realistic it is. I wasn't being rude there, Mark. I was just looking down at my phone so I could have a look at the comments and that coming on there. A lot of people saying hello: Frank Logan, Dean Duggan, Tristan, Steve Alcott, Dave Andrews, who performed on the international show a few years ago.
Yeah, Dave and I are good friends, and so is Trish.
Yeah. Michael Rowe, Mark has a great how-to DVD. A lot of compliments there.
Thank you.
And apparently you're a very nice person, Mark. We all knew that anyway. We all knew.
We gotta keep spreading that around so people know.
Yeah. Okay. Lovely. My secretary just passed me some questions.
Okay.
And some notes. I didn't realise that the questions from here actually went live onto the Facebook page on the what was coming from here. So I kept looking at the side there and thinking, like, not getting many comments and different things there. So what's the future for Mark then? What's you got planned for the future, Mark?
Well, I'm kind of semi-retired right now. I live here in sunny Florida, which is nice. I mean, we have 2 seasons, as I told you before, hot and hotter. And so I'm living in Florida and I'm doing some talks. Actually, I've changed my direction just a little bit. I still love the kids shows. That's my first love. And I'll still do my library shows and whatnot here. But I'm doing talks, like an after dinner talk to like Rotary clubs, Kiwanis clubs, different fraternal organizations. And I'm doing ventriloquism. I talk about how I learned ventriloquism and how it works and all that. And then I demonstrate and do the baby cry and all the stuff that we've been talking about. But it's been a lot of fun doing that. So I'm doing the actual public speaking. And I bring one puppet with me. So I'm not hauling a backdrop and sound systems and all this stuff I used to carry all the time. It was like I run away from home every time I did a show. I had all that stuff in the car. So
Yeah, it can be quite heavy work setting up, can't it?
I don't want to ever quit. I'll never quit. I mean, I love it too much to give it up. So I'm like I said, I can pick and choose my shows I want to do now. In the olden days, when you worked for yourself and that was your livelihood, you took anything that came down the road just about. So now I try to pick and choose what I want to do. If it's too far away or something I don't want to do, I don't take it, or I give it to somebody else to do. I am getting myself ready to be with a speakers bureau, and it's like an agency that handles speakers, and I'm working at that right now to get ready to do that. And here again, I'll pick and choose what I do on my speaking tours. And I do want to do lectures. I still want to go out to the different lectures and do different conventions around the world. And in fact, I'm going back to Japan. Looks like I was asked back there, so we'll see.
Have to see how the situation is. Well,
Yeah,
Mark,
see, yeah.
Yeah, well, it has been really lovely having you on here. I'm going to stop the live stream in a moment, and I'm going to post about the IVS and the other things underneath. But stay where you are, Mark. We're going to say goodbye to everybody online. Stay where you are for a moment, and then I'll have a quick word with you before I close everything down. Is that okay?
Sure, whatever you want to do.
Okay, so if you could also bye to Mark online there, that'd be fantastic. And thank you very much for sharing your time there. I'm going to stop the live stream now. There we go. I think we're still live. You can tell that